Good afternoon to you. Mark Sutter with HurricaneTrack.com here. It is Monday, the 23rd of May, 2022, and it's time for the Hurricane Outlook and discussion. We've got a lot to talk about. The tropics starting to get a little bit more busy here, a little bit more active in the eastern Pacific. That's that lower graphic there on the title card and the thumbnail. And of course, we had 90L, an unnamed tropical entity. What was it exactly? The case certainly being made that it could have been a tropical storm. I'll present that evidence to you. That's what the radar still frame shows for you there. It's now up in parts of the southeast, bringing some much needed rainfall, but it did stir up quite a bit of inclement weather yesterday coming out of the northern Gulf there towards the Florida Panhandle and the Alabama coastlines, and now, as I said, it's in the southeast. So we'll look at that. Severe weather at the end of the update today. We'll take a look at the SPC and several things in between. So good to have you. Let's get on with it. See what we've got going on out there. The first stop on our tour today, I am telling you, the sea surface temperature anomalies in the Atlantic. This is, that's warm. That's getting it. There's some 1 degree Celsius and higher anomalies sitting in here. Now look, this is a certain data set, and we're going to go into that maybe one day as a tutorial. What's the deal with the different data sets that make up these anomalies? It's an anomaly to what? What is the background state? And we'll do that as a separate tutorial one day. We'll get an expert on that can explain that to us. That's in the cards, all right? We're going to do that. But just know that this does show warmer than average water temperatures, and certainly in the northeast Atlantic up here, and now across the subtropics, which some folks are saying that could create some instability issues when you make it really warm up here. You get a lot of rising motion, and then that rising air sinks down in the deep tropics and dries things out. Sinking air compresses, warms, dries things out, and you get instability issues. Remember, instability, the ability of the atmosphere to lift. And if you have warm air over warm air, you can't do that nearly as efficiently. So we'll have to see how this all pans out. But otherwise, that is a very, very warm look to the Atlantic basin, sea surface temperature anomaly-wise. The Pacific, all of this showing colder than average anomalies. The stage is set. We've known this for several months now, seeing that it could be coming, and here it is. Actual sea surface temperatures, hey, this actually mattered. Speaking of actual, we had our system yesterday that formed from a mesoscale convective complex, just a fancy way of saying a big cluster of thunderstorms on a small scale, mesoscale, and then it developed a vortex, an area of spin, a little low pressure area. It was small, didn't have a lot of energy with it, but it really took advantage of these warm Gulf temperatures that are warmer than average already by at least 1 degree Celsius or more. And you saw what happened. It made landfall up there in the vicinity of Alabama, Florida, that region. And we can look at the map here. These are actual sea surface temperatures. And you can actually see where this kind of took a little bit of heat out. These maps get updated pretty much every day. So this was yesterday, and the system came up here and made landfall in this vicinity over here. And, it's kind of taken out a little bit of the heat, but don't worry, it will be back. But the Gulf is all but ready to go. Just a couple of small areas here where the water temperature is at the surface and below what we call the upper ocean heat content. It's getting there, but it's not all the way where it's going to be. I mean, after all, it's still May. Probably have some westerly winds or something going on over here at the surface to create this upwelling along the Texas coast. If Mr. Musk is going to go swimming down here at Boca Chica, checking on Starbase, better bring the wetsuit. It's probably a little chilly down there right off of Boca Chica Village. I've been there. Was there with the National Tropical Weather Conference back in April. Quite the sight, but it's a little chilly down there water temperature-wise. But the rest of the Gulf of Mexico, as you can see, look at the scale down here. Those greens and yellows, 28 Celsius, that's about 82 Fahrenheit in most areas. Around South Florida, very toasty, 28, 29 Celsius. The same is true south of Cuba. These areas typically warm up a lot more. Those waters are more shallow, so it's easier to warm them up. What about the Atlantic? Don't want to leave you guys out. The mid-Atlantic states still way too cold up here, mid-Atlantic to New England, but south of Hatteras and vicinity. We're getting there. Water temperatures in the low to mid-70s, depending on where you are. If you're south of Charleston and just along the Georgia and Florida coast there, Fernandina Beach, maybe down to Ormond and those areas, close to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 26.5 Celsius if you're going the scientific route. Most of science is done in the metric system, by the way, just so you know, in degrees Celsius and whatever. All right. This is not necessarily meant to be a science lesson, although I try to teach you what I know. I don't know everything, and I never have professed as such. But what I do know, I like to tell you about. And in the Atlantic, nothing right now. We did have 90L, and it came up real quick yesterday. A lot of people talking about it on weather, social media outlets, you name it. And then it made landfall. We're going to get into that in more detail in just a moment. But for now, nothing going on in the Atlantic to worry about over the next 48 hours. The Pacific, now there's nothing to worry about, but we do have a couple of areas. This is 48 hours for potential development. It's low. But then as we expand this out to 5 days, this is the area that will almost certainly, got to be careful when you say that, give us our first real named storm. As I said, the case can be made that we should have had a named storm yesterday. It's right on the edge there. But I digress. This one will become more than likely the Eastern Pacific's first named storm. And I have to admit, I don't remember what the first name is for the Eastern Pacific. So let's go and find out together. Eastern North Pacific, it'll be Agatha this year. So I do think that we get that in the East Pac over the next few days down here south of southeastern and southern Mexico. We'll look at this on the GFS where it might go in just a moment. And I'll also make another observation about that I think is interesting. Visible satellite imagery today, stitched together. You get an animation. Beautiful low pressure area sitting out here in the Atlantic, non-tropical in nature. If it was September and the water temperatures over here were nice and toasty like we know they will get, and this sat there long enough, I bet it would work its way down to the surface. Because, real quick, a little piece of science for you with tropical meteorology. Hurricanes, hey, my voice cracked. Maybe I'm going to grow a couple of more inches. Hurricanes, typically, we need the release of heat, not cold air aloft and all that stuff. You got to have cold air way up in the atmosphere to create instability, but hurricanes are heat engines. They are driven by the release of heat. And so when you get these big cold core lows, it takes time over warm water to develop more, say it with me, convection, right? Play at home. More convection or thunderstorms to generate that release of heat. Condensation is a warming process, believe it or not. Evaporation is a cooling process, some basic science for you. So that little swirly out there, well east of the United States and southeast of the Canadian Maritimes over here, non-tropical in nature, but if it hung around over warm water long enough, you could develop more deep thunderstorm activity, and you never know. And that's usually what we see in September. Sometimes that happens. A little bit of disturbed weather down and around Central America. There is what's left over of 90L. I'll show you a great radar animation of it in just a moment. And then in the Eastern Pacific, we're starting to blossom up some activity there. This is the first system. This is the second one. And we'll look at this in the modeling in just a moment. You'll see how these things are going to progress. So here, got to wait for it to load. I've really pushed my computer here to the limits. This is a fantastic 200 frame animation of 90L, the unnamed storm, just after landfall down here near Gulf Shores and Orange Beach and vicinity late last night. Look at that. Coming in, my good friend Dylan Federico was down there in Gulf Shores, and he said, look, I think meteorologically speaking, this could have been a depression or a storm. He and I talking about that over text. He was hanging out down there, having some fun, some time off, and he just happened to be in the right place at the right time. There was also a pressure reading down there. I think I've got this in the thread I'm going to show you from Weber Weather. Eric Webb's his name. Got a lot to tell you. I'm all excited about it. Anyway, look at it. It looks like a dying tropical system. Non-tropical features, when they make landfall, they don't look better. They just don't. This thing continued to wind up. It's got all the markings, the looks of a tropical system. So maybe they go back, the National Hurricane Center, and add it at the end of the season, oh, we did have a named storm in May, and if so, we would retroactively keep the streak alive of named storms before June 1st. You know, who cares, right? But it is interesting. Now, one thing to note, the National Weather Service, the National Hurricane Center, but especially the WFOs down in Mobile and vicinity that handle this area, the local weather forecast offices did a great job with marine advisories, pushing out any alerts that needed to be out there. Social media was all over it. Yes, there are boaters. There's people taking advantage of the Sunday activities. Hey, Dylan was in Gulf Shores, but people knew about this coming. It didn't ramp up into a hurricane or anything. It didn't catch a lot of people off guard. But I think it is a warning shot as to what could be coming later this season. It took advantage of some very warm water temperatures, and it's only May. And look what happened. I really do believe, and I don't want to hype something that's not hypeable, but I don't think this is a coincidence. I think we're seeing that the Atlantic Basin, which includes the Gulf of Mexico, is loaded for bear. You give it a legit shot, it's going to take advantage of it. I think that's what we're seeing here. All right, so it moved inland. A lot of rain out in front of it. It's starting to dwindle away a little bit as it does lose its structural integrity. But boy, that was something else coming in. Heavy rain over the western part of the Carolinas, upstate South Carolina, Georgia, eastern Tennessee. So if you're traveling through that area, do be careful. By the way, this radar animation, spectacular, comes from Mark Nissenbaum's site over at Florida State University. I have referenced it many a time, and here we are, May 23rd, referencing it again. All right, anything down in the deep tropics to get your attention? No, but there is the system that I showed you, the swirly, east of North America. There is 90L's vorticity signature. And then here's a little bit of energy trying to congregate in the eastern Pacific. But let's just zoom in on this real quick and look at our feature down here. There's 90L right there. Sharp vorticity maxima right in the middle of it. Yeah, that is a telltale sign overall that this was a brief, small, short-lived, well, that's what brief means, tropical cyclone. And we'll see the National Hurricane Center will handle it. We'll see if retroactively we get a depression or even a named storm when all is said and done. All right, so here's the thread from Eric Webb. 90L will have a good argument to gain tropical cyclone classification in post-season analysis, what I was just saying there. The circulation is well defined. Now, this is several hours ago, before landfall, all right? And consistent refiring of convection. Those are those thunderstorms I was telling you about. In and near the center, the would-be center is indicative of a strong low-level circulation with a large enough radius of deformation. So the meteorology, and Eric, look, he doesn't have a dog in this fight, so to speak. You know, Eric Webb, it doesn't benefit him to have, and I hate that I have to explain this, but that's the world we live in. He doesn't stand to gain if they name this a storm later. It's science. Does the science, I mean, biologists look at animals and marine biologists look at marine animals and they classify things and they look at things, and if the science fits, you fit it. Period. There's no agenda. Nobody makes more money. Nobody does. Look, it's just stupid. So there's my short rant. I get passionate about it because I know a lot of these people, and I don't see any of them driving around in Bentleys and living in $7 million mansions because they're benefiting off of named storms. For bleep's sake. Anyway, Eric makes a good argument. And continuing on the thread, the biggest knock that it may have against it is the lack of deep, persistent convection. That was earlier yesterday. However, the role of shallow congestus, and this is meteorological stuff. This is that science. You want evidence? Here's your evidence. So the shallow congestus and the low-level vortex spin-up is arguably more important and underrated, he says, because of the shallower heating profile. In other words, the science is there through the thermal profiles, the limited deep thunderstorms that it did have, the low-level circulation. This could have been a tropical storm or a depression. One before the other could have been a depression, then a storm. So we have to keep up with this because one day, to quote from Jaws, you're going to keep ignoring the problem until it swims up and bites you in the you-know-what. One of these is going to go ballistic. 20 hours off the Florida Keys or coming in. I mean, look at Michael, 2018. That was as great an example as we could have where something went from, doesn't look like much. Oh, whoops, it was a Category 5 at landfall. We have to know. We have to know when these things can happen. I'm going to put a link to Eric's thread in today's discussion description, and you can read through some of this yourselves. Really fascinating. This is the science. It's not BS. It's not hyped. Again, he doesn't stand to benefit one way or the other, except credibility, and that's important. All right, so GFS from this morning's run, the 12Z run. Hey, look, there's the vorticity maxima from 90L. Easy to spot. Right on the west side of that nice little ridge sitting off the Carolina coast, the southeast coast as a whole. Elsewhere, not much down in the deep tropics down here. This is the 850 millibar level of the atmosphere, just to catch you up on what we are looking at. And let's put this into motion over the next few days and watch what happens here. Nothing to speak of in this area. But watch over here. We do get a little tropical cyclone that gets going. I say little. It's not large in size. And then it makes landfall in the Gulf of Tehuantepec region. And let's stop this. We're now out at way beyond the reasonable time frame. So let's just go back. It gets its genesis down there in the southeastern Pacific at about, let's just say 72 hours. A small, defined tropical cyclone. Now, let's play geography for just a moment. All right? You know your latitude and longitude, right? I hope so. Especially those of you that have bought one of our tracking maps. Very important. And I bring this up because look at where the GFS has this forming. Now, I don't think this is going to be one of those phantom storms. 72 hours out on this particular chart. The ensembles are seeing it. The European, it's got a lot of support. So just looking at the GFS operational here, this longitude right here, let's take the telestration away, and Dr. Cowan's awesome maps, if you mouse over them, it'll give you the lat long. 12 north, we'll just round these. We'll call it 13 if you want to round up. And 93 west. So 93 west is also the same longitude as close to Lake Charles. So if we didn't have Mexico, and I've said this before, if you took this away and geography was different, and maybe the land dipped down like this and connected, and this was part of the southern Gulf, we would all be saying, oh, we're going to get a named storm in the Atlantic Basin, and it's not June yet. The land is the separator here. It's still longitudinally within the area that's part of the Atlantic Basin. We just don't call it that. This is semantics. It's not like there's a giant Himalayan mountain range between the Southwest Caribbean or the Gulf and the Southeast Pacific, and it's just geographically vastly different. It's not that much different, and the only thing separating it is Central America and Mexico. So I find it curious that we're going to get development darn close to the Atlantic Basin. And again, if it weren't for the geographic distribution, it's just luck that Central America is here, we would all be like, whoop, there we go. The second potential named storm before June 1st. It's only because of the landmass that we're not screaming that. So there you go. It forms, it comes in, and it makes landfall. It's not west of what would be the edge of the Gulf of Mexico over here. It's firmly within that longitudinal zone, and to me, that does matter because it's still a symptom that the season is going to be busy. This is the area we normally watch this time of year. Geographically, it's all connected. Climatologically, that's the word I'm looking for. Climatologically, it fits. So we'll be watching that, and our friends down here in southeast Mexico, keep an eye on it. I'll talk about it in more detail tomorrow. All right, as it progresses. Severe weather for today. Our friends in the Lone Star State, you got to pay attention. Why is that arrow there? That's very odd. Let's get that out of there. Why are you there? Oh, there we go. I don't know what that's all about. Is that a new Firefox thing? If so, it's annoying. Easily distracted by shiny things and arrows. Marginal risk of severe weather, kind of related to 90L and just the juicy air mass, but the slight risk over here in Texas and extreme eastern New Mexico. A little bit of a risk up here, marginal in North Dakota, and then some convective activity up in Idaho. And if we look at the tornado threat, low, but not zero. Wind threat highest in Texas. Hail, yeah, could get some large hail events here in Texas, maybe in North Dakota as well. What about tomorrow? Just keeping you on your toes. Got to keep you updated on this stuff. Again, in Texas, for the most part, is the greatest risk. The southeast as a whole, lots and lots of instability and moisture down here. Why? The Gulf of Mexico, darn bit warmer than it should be. There's your energy source. See, it's all connected, or at least close to it. Hey, look at that. My area tomorrow, 2% tornado risk. Great. Just obviously I'm joking. It's sarcasm. 15% wind problems right in the heart of Texas. And then the hail threat also the highest there as well. As hopefully not whale-sized hail. That would be terrible. But yes, do take that seriously down there, despite my speech impediment. And then finally, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. This will be day 3 Wednesday. The threat of severe weather down near the Houston area. Hadn't seen a lot of rain in this area. You really need it. So that would be kind of a welcome sight, as long as you don't get anything too out of control. Right. All right, going out into time. Day 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not much in the predictability areas to really highlight anything. But I know that there's a good trough that's going to be digging in towards this time frame here, especially day 6, 7, and 8. And I bet we light up this area next week. Memorial Day could be interesting out on the Great Plains. And I will be there if that happens. We'll talk about that later. Got some neat new things. Always coming up with new stuff for you to better tell the story of how the weather does what it does. We're on pretty much everything now. We got the TikTok going. Yep, I'm on TikTok. June 1st, I'm going to start doing these roughly 90-second. Yes, I can get this done in 90 seconds. You'll see. It's a different format, so just play along, all right? We're going to do a 90-second morning summary. But it's going to be called What's Up in the Tropics. A little cute thing that I'm going to do. Because this stuff gets real serious. You know that. We want to keep it on the lighter side when we can. Not everything is doom and gloom and the end of the world. Most of the time, it's just, hey, what's happening out there? What's up? What people want to know? What's up in the tropics? Well, I'll tell you. Each morning, I'll upload it to those 6 main social media sites, plus our Discord and our Patreon. Those will see it first. Little noise back there for what it's worth. And it'll be a little 90-second teaser as to what's coming up in this video, the Hurricane Outlook and Discussion, later in the day. I'm going to try to do one of those 90-second deals, the What's Up in the Tropics, every single day of the hurricane season. And then there will be some days when we don't need to do the Hurricane Outlook and Discussion because it'll be quiet. Fingers crossed that we can do that. I need a little time off in the summer for vacation eventually. And our Patreon, it's starting to grow again, and that's really awesome, you guys. Thank you so much. Several new supporters. It starts at $4, goes up to as much as you want to do, what can fit your budget. You can move around, whatever. It works, and it's great. We crowdfund what we do, and we are doing some awesome stuff. So download the app. Go to patreon.com/HurricaneTrack. You can even aim your phone at that QR code. I bet that'll work. At least I hope it does. That's why it's there. All right, but we're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Spotify will have the audio and the video from this new What's Up in the Tropics, and we'll pump everything over to TikTok and Instagram as well. We're going to be busy on the social media side of things. And we got our tracking map. I think I've got about 64 last count left. So if you want one of our poster-sized full-color maps or a T-shirt, although we're getting ready to redo our store, so you might want to hold off on the T-shirts for now, honestly. We're getting ready to unveil a new store through Teespring, and it'll look a lot better than this store. I threw this together myself. Teespring or Spring does a much better job. But our tracking maps, we've still got them. They're poster size. You can go, I'll put the link here too. It's easy. It's hurricanetrack.com/store.html, or just, no, it's store.html. There it is. And get a map, put it on your wall, and track along with us, all right? And you can get it right off the homepage here at the HT store. All right, we are done. Let's get this thing online for you so you can enjoy everything, all about it. But it is great to have you along. Don't forget, on YouTube, please like and share the video. And if you don't like it, tell me why. Say, I don't like it because. And, you know, I can handle it. I'm a big boy now, literally and figuratively. But really, importantly, if you do like it, let everybody know. Let's grow what we're doing here. I do appreciate it. I get great feedback from you, and I like that positivity, especially with everything else going on in the world. We need as much positivity as we can get. So it's good to have you with me. I do appreciate it. I am Mark Sudduth. HurricaneTrack, that's the brand. We'll be back with more for you tomorrow.